Oh, hey there. Nothing to announce, just wanted to let you know that we're getting close to that goal. It would be really awesome to hit 100 subscribers by the end of 2023, so if you don't mind just hitting that subscribe button, I would really... Oh, it's right there. Nope, right, yep, there you go. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Let's make a video. Welcome to Glyph Notes, the show where we take a deeper look at the factions that make up Lord of the Rings: Heroes of Middle-earth. We take a deeper look at the history of the subject, the individual characters, how they work together, and some of their strengths and weaknesses. Today's subject, Haradrim. Bekelu and Tibeb were two characters that were announced in tandem with Chapter 2 of The Raid back in August of 2023. They are part of the 5-man squad of Haradrim, along with Wubete, Robel, and Yeftu. This group of proud tribal warriors gets overlooked a lot in the game, and I'm here to set the record straight. I've been hyping up Haradrim for months. From the time that Tibeb's kit was revealed, I felt like they were going to be pretty good, to the point that they've been one of my 5 raid teams ever since they were still at 3 stars. Even though I've been distracted farming goblins and elves for what feels like forever, I still farmed Tibeb and Wubete in the supply and farmed Bekelu all the way to 7 stars. Today I want to give you an overview of the team, and I want to go over each character, their kit, where you can farm them, and the glyphs that I personally believe they benefit from the most. And then I want to go over how they work together and some of their weaknesses. Whoa, oh, I gotta get out of here! By the beard of Durin, now I know how the Haradrim felt. Anyway, the Haradrim as we know them in Heroes of Middle-earth are a race of men from near Harad, in the Harad region, just south of Mordor and southeast of Gondor. They have a dark complexion with black hair and black eyes. In Peter Jackson's trilogy, their appearance was inspired by the Saracens and the Pacific Kiribati tribes. In the Second Age, men from Numenor built a city in the Firth of Umbar, a natural harbor on the southern shores of the Bay of Belfalas and nearby to the Harad region. From here, the Numenorians maintained great control over the Haradrim, even killing and selling them into slavery. That seems problematic at best. And after the fall of Numenor, the Black Numenorians, who continued to oppose the faithful, again, that seems bad somehow, namely Haramor and Fëanor, fled to near Harad to rule over the Haradrim. In the Third Age, the men of Gondor subdued the Haradrim, and then forced them to pay tribute, sending the sons of chiefs as hostages. This may be why we have Tibeb as our leader and chief in Heroes of Middle-earth, as opposed to the man seen in the films. The Kinstrife, which would take a whole video to explain in itself, set the Haradrim free, and they were constantly at war with Gondor after this. During the War of the Ring, the Haradrim aligned themselves with Sauron, and even played a big role in the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. In fact, a Haradrim archer nearly fatally wounded Faramir, and the Mumakil were a great threat to the Rohirrim that came to the aid of Minas Tirith. As a side note, the chieftain of the Haradrim in that battle bore a standard of a black serpent on a scarlet field, which should sound familiar. After the War of the Rings, now King Aragorn established the reunited kingdom. Again, that would take a whole video to explain, but the point is that even though the Haradrim were never incorporated into the realm, it is said that Aragorn made peace with them. Let's take a look at the characters now. For reference, all of my Haradrim have full sets of level 5 glyphs. Also, while I don't have all of their abilities maxed out by any means, I am going to read off the abilities as if they're level 6. It's just simpler that way. Regarding glyphs, The secondary stats are completely up to RNG, and finding a full set of 6 glyphs that all have the 4 secondary stats that you're looking for will be near impossible, especially for a team of 5 characters. I am going to give you the secondary stats that I think are important for each character in the order of priority. You'll find that every Haradrim has about the same secondary stat priorities, with a few variations to one of the stats in the priority order. Okay, let's get to it. I want to start with our leader, Tibeb the Sage. Tibeb was a marquee character, but has since landed in the challenge supply, meaning that you can effectively farm about 15 shards a week with 900 currency left over. This was after some controversy where it would have effectively taken 2 years to fully farm her. Don't worry, they fixed it. If you're farming her from 0 shards, it will only take you 54 weeks to farm Tibeb to 7 stars. Although that does still feel unnecessarily long, considering there are other characters to farm in the challenge supply. Anyway, Tibeb serves as your main support, with her first special healing the entire team, and her second special both cleansing some of the team and giving them all haste. Let's take a look at her kit. Leader and healer of her tribe, the Sage keeps her allies in fighting form. Countless Haradrim victories have been won under her insightful command. Tibeb's tags are Haradrim, Human, Shadow, Healer, Staff, and of course Leader. If we move down, we can see that Tibeb has 5 abilities, including her leadership ability. Let's take a closer look at those. We're going to come back to that leadership ability in a second. Let's start with the basic. Tibeb's basic is Fearless Advance. It reads, attack the target enemy for 180% damage and grant fortitude for 2 turns to the most wounded squad member. Unlike a lot of basic abilities, this one hands out Fortitude. Fortitude increases resistance, which is really useful in chapters 2 and 4. Next is Southern Medicine. This is the team's primary healing ability, and it's pretty good. It reads, heal all squad members for 800 health and 20% of this character's max health. Grant fortitude for 1 turn to 2 random squad members. With 7 stars and max gear, this comes out to over 7,000 health, and that's before glyphs. Again, we see fortitude in the picture to keep those pesky banes away. Her special 2 is Coiled Serpent. It says, grant haste for 2 turns to all squad members. Cleanse 1 bane from self and 3 random allies. You do wish that it would cleanse another bane, or at least extend to all allies, but that's okay. It will get supplemented by other members of the team. Now, before we get to the passive, let's return to that leadership ability. Fight as one. Each living Haradrim squad member shares their passive ability with other Haradrim squad members. Haradrim squad members gain plus 10% damage and plus 15% block chance. The first part of that is the most important part. This ability turns the Haradrim into a super team that gains the benefits of each other's abilities. So remember moving forward that each passive will be shared by every Haradrim ally. With that, let's look at Tibeb's passive ability. Haradrim Resilience. The first time this character drops below 50% health, gain 1 stack of Unbreakable and gain 3 stacks of Regeneration for 1 turn. This is all about keeping the members of the team alive to keep fighting. In Chapter 3, this can help your squad survive a few more turns for extra points. Now let's talk about glyphs. Okay, I put together this graphic for each character, so let's go over it. It is my opinion that the best sets for Tibeb are Withering and Lifestealer. You can definitely feel free to swap out the Withering set for the Last Stand set, but because the idea behind this team is to apply Banes, I feel that Withering was the set to go with. For primary stats, you can see on the right side in slot order, it is Health, Damage, Armor, Health, Health, Health. Health primaries are important for all healers. Remember, Tibeb's Special 1 bases the healing off of her max health, so the higher it is, the more healing the ability does. The secondary stats that I went with are Health, Speed, Focus, and Crit Chance, and that's my order of importance. Again, you want Tibeb's max health as high as possible to maximize on that healing. Then, as with all support characters, you want as much speed as possible so that they can provide that support early and often. You'll find that Focus and Crit Chance are in each secondary list for Haradrim, and you'll see why by the end of the video. Alright, out of the way. Our next character is Wubete. Wubete is a tank that also hits kind of hard. His most important skills are applying slow to the enemies and of course provoking. This comes in handy, especially in chapters 2 and 3 of the raid when controlling the flow of battle is most important. Wubete has been in the guild supply since day 1. Before Biffer was dropped in there, I actually got Wubete to 6 stars and plan to finish the job very soon. Let's take a look at Wubete's kit. Hailing from near Harad, this powerful tank deals high damage to demoralized foes while working to protect his allies. As you can see, Wubete's tags are Haradrim, Shadow, Human, Tank, and One-Handed Heavy. Now let's take a look at his abilities. His basic, Axe Mastery, at max level says attack target enemy for 210% damage. This is kind of just your standard basic attack, nothing special. Next is the Special 1, Warrior Spirit. It reads, cleanse 3 Banes from self. Attack the target enemy for 260% damage and gain 2 stacks of Provoke. This move does a lot. The damage is big, but also cleansing 3 Banes is a big deal for Chapter 4. It equals big points. Then of course, it provokes, so that Wubete can fulfill his role as the team tank. His Special 2 is Horizontal Slash. It says, attack all enemies for 230% damage and inflict slow for 2 turns. This is a very important ability when you're playing in Chapter 2. Landing a slow on the troll while he's toppled is crucial to your success. It's a big part of the team's ability to control the flow of battle in Chapter 3, and a vital AoE in Chapter 1. Lastly, we have the passive, Warrior's Pride. It reads, when attacking an enemy with Black Serpent's Poison, heal self for 3% of this character's max health. Black Serpent's Poison is a bane that is unique to the Haradrim. We're going to go over it later, but for now, this means that the entire team has a source of passive healing, which is great for keeping them going longer. Okay, let's look at the glyph situation. For Wubete, I went with a Withering set, but this time went with a set of Shield Wall. Wubete is going to take a lot of hits, so the more that we can do to alleviate some of that damage, the better. For primary stats, in slot order, I went with Health, Damage, Armor, Focus, Armor, Focus. Focus is very important to this team. They need to apply the Black Serpent's Poison Bane often to be effective. And again, we want to mitigate as much damage as possible for Wubete. He'll thank you by enduring a ton of punishment. As for the secondary stats, for Wubete, I think the order of importance should be Focus, Crit Chance, Armor, and then Speed. The speed is less important on Wubete, but still would be nice to have. In my opinion, armor is more important, as we've discussed. Focus and crit chance are the most important stats for the team as a whole, for reasons you'll see with our next character. Here we go. Whew. Our next character is Robel. Tibeb may be the leader, but Robel is the beating heart of this team. This is due to her mega important passive that I will go over shortly. Aside from that, Robel has 2 abilities that pull back turn meter, which is huge in readjusting the turn order mid-battle. Robel is located on Shadow Hard Node 4-1, the first of 2 hard node farms. Let's look at that kit. The pride of her people, this deadly warrior excels at both offense and defense, and incites Haradrim allies to follow her into battle. Her tags are Shadow, Human, Haradrim, Attacker, and Spear. Now let's check out the abilities. Starting with the basic, Southern Spear. It says, attack the target enemy for 170% damage, and reduce their turn meter by 25%. This ability is awesome. You'll need to get it to level 4 before the turn meter reduction becomes reliable, but it's worth the ability material. And honestly, the ability is fine at level 4. You're just missing some of the damage and 5% of the turn meter removal. Next, the Special 1 ability, Fury and Steel. Attack the target enemy for 270% damage and gain 1 stack of Provoke and 1 stack of Defensive. So this one is interesting. Robel is classified as an attacker but can provoke. It's only 1 stack, but it can draw some of the heat off of Wubete, especially in Chapter 3. It's also worth noting that this is the most damage in her kit. And then there's her Special 2 ability, Wide Swing. It reads, attack all enemies for 230% damage and reduce their turn meter by 15%. Again, we have turn meter removal, and this time it's an AoE, so you have a chance to remove turn meter from the entire opposing team. I don't feel like I need to explain why this is good, right? It's a high damage AoE and removes turn meter. It's pretty solid. Now comes the most important part of this kit, the passive. We fight together. On crit, inflict 1 stack of Black Serpent's poison. Gain plus 25% focus. This is enormous. The entire team is built around this passive ability. You've already seen that Wubete's passive cares about Black Serpent's poison. You need to make sure this ability is the first on the squad at level 6. Because of Tibeb's leadership ability, this passive gets spread to the entire team, so anybody can apply Black Serpent's poison on a critical hit. Next, let's talk about her glyphs. For the sets, of course, we're starting with Withering because of the Black Serpent's poison. Because of the Provoke, I also chose to go with Shield Wall here, but you can just as easily swap it out for one of the more offensive sets. The primary stats that we're looking for are health, damage, armor, focus, damage, and focus, and that is in slot order. I told you focus would be important. When it comes to Robel, the focus isn't just important for applying Black Serpent's poison. That turn meter removal undergoes the same focus resistance check as applying a Bane. My choices for secondary stats are focus, crit chance, speed, and damage. More emphasis on focus, but crit chance will be important because you have to crit in order to apply the Black Serpent's poison. Go back there. Robel's passive is the primary source of Black Serpent's poison, but it's not the only source. Our next character is Bekelu. Bekelu is a support character that sometimes feels like an attacker. She has the ability to apply Black Serpent's poison and regular poison, and she has a powerful cleanse that also helps allies land critical hits easier. Bekelu was another marquee character, but found her way to Guild Node 4-7. Let's pull up that kit. Versatile and cunning, Bekelu poisons and weakens her foes while empowering her allies. The tags are Haradrim, Human, Shadow, Support, and One-Handed Sword. And let's take a look at the abilities. The basic, Heartless Assault reads, attack the target 3 times for 60% damage per hit and inflict 2 stacks of poison for 2 turns. Here we have yet another basic ability with extra words. Hitting 3 times is already good, especially when the Balrog is in flame form in Chapter 4. But this ability also applies poison to stunt the enemy's healing and deal damage to them on their turn. Plus, those 3 hits are 3 chances to crit and 3 chances to apply Black Serpent's poison. The special one, Serpent's Dance, reads, cleanse 2 Banes, grant concentration for 1 turn, and grant deadly for 1 turn to self and the 2 allies with the most Banes. So this one is really good in multiple parts of the raid. To start with, in Chapter 4, you earn points for cleansing Banes, so this move essentially gives you free points. In Chapter 2, it's important to get a lot of crits to slow the troll down. That's where the deadly comes into play. Get this move to at least level 4. Her special 2 is Serpent's Fang. It reads, attack the target 3 times for 105% damage per hit. If Wubete is an ally, instead attack 2 times for 195% damage per hit. Inflict 1 stack of Black Serpent's poison. This is it, the only other ability that applies Black Serpent's poison. It also does decent damage, especially if Wubete is there for the team-up attack. Last is the passive, Graceful Blades. It says, deal plus 23% bonus damage against enemies with no boons. This doesn't sound like it has anything to do with Black Serpent's poison, but it actually has a lot to do with it. You'll learn more later, but in short, Black Serpent's poison will keep enemies from gaining boons, allowing this passive to go to work for the entire team. Now let's take a look at the glyphs. For sets, I am again going with Withering, and this time we're just going for Armor Piercer. The truth is, the minor sets just don't speak to me when it comes to Bekelu. At least with Armor Piercer, you're squeezing out a little extra damage. Of course, with this kit, Withering is perfect. It will deal a ton of damage. The primary stats you should be looking for are health, damage, armor, focus, damage, focus. I think Bekelu might have the most need for the focus, maybe other than Robel. Both Bekelu's basic ability and special 2 apply Banes, which are central to her kit. Lastly, the secondary stats that I believe you should go for are focus, speed, crit chance, and damage. I'm obviously making a real statement about focus here, huh? And speed is definitely important because you want to be able to use that special 1 ability as often as possible because it will help spread Black Serpent's poison. Our last character is Yeftu. The poison will do most of the damage, but Yeftu is going to try and keep up. His lack of AoE is made up for by the insane amount of single target damage. Each ability is doing over 200% damage, and 2 of them apply Banes. His passive ability also takes the team to the next level. Yeftu can be found on Light Hard Node 1-7, so that's pretty early on. Let's check his kit. Wounds are no limitation to this powerful veteran. Wielding a scimitar, he fights best when surrounded by Haradrim allies, striking precisely to capitalize on enemy weak points. The tags for Yeftu are Haradrim, Human, Shadow, Attacker, and One-Handed Sword. Is that... You know what? Never mind. Now let's get to the abilities. His basic ability is Twin Tusks, which says, attack the target enemy for 210% damage and inflict Weaken for 1 turn. Weaken reduces the incoming damage, so in Chapter 2 it's very beneficial to make sure the troll isn't demolishing you too quickly. Plus 210% damage is pretty beefy for a basic ability. Special 1 is Fierce Slash, which says attack the target enemy for 380% damage and inflict Expose for 2 turns. Again, 380% damage is a lot, considering the ability only has 3 stamina. On top of that, the 2-turn Expose on turn 1 really opens up the enemy for a big damage from the rest of the team. His Special 2, Disabling Slice, says attack the target enemy for 400% damage and dispel 2 boons. That is even more damage, and even though this ability doesn't apply a Bane, it does dispel 2 boons, so that's a decent trade-off. Finally, we have Yeftu's passive, Battle Hardened. This says, gain plus 12% crit chance. While this character has no Banes, gain an additional plus 13% crit chance. So this goes hand in hand with Robel's passive, helping to further spread the Black Serpent's poison because you need to crit to apply the poison. This passive is really important. And what are we thinking in terms of glyphs for Yeftu? I think you know. We are of course starting with Withering. Yes, the entire team should have Withering sets. No, I'm not being ridiculous. You're being ridiculous, Patrick. We also want to go with Armor Piercer for the other set. He's already packing a big punch. Why not One Punch Man them to the moon?
ちょっと待ってろ。
For the primary stats, we're going with Health, Damage, Armor, Focus, Damage, Focus. Again, Focus is going to be very necessary to apply Black Serpent's poison. We'll talk about why here in a moment. Finally, for secondary stats. For Yeftu, in order of importance, I'm looking for Speed, Focus, Crit Chance, and Damage. Honestly, I'm not sure that these have a particular order of importance for Yeftu, but I am sure that these are the secondary stats that you want to look for. It's finally time to talk about Black Serpent's poison. I've been mentioning it the entire video. This is what this team is all about. Black Serpent's poison is a Bane that says, when this unit receives a boon, prevent that boon and inflict poison instead. 1 stack of this Bane is removed when this effect is triggered. A maximum of 3 stacks can be held at once. By the way, I love that I can do this with boons and Banes. I have this problem in Galaxy of Heroes all of the time where I have to search for the definition of a buff or a debuff. It's so nice that I can just tap on it anywhere in Heroes of Middle-earth and read the definition. Thank you, CG. Anyway, with Black Serpent's poison, you can keep 1 or 2 members of the enemy team from gaining boons. The best part is the entire team can do this. But how is that possible? Well, remember Tibeb's leadership ability? Here it is again. Each living Haradrim squad member shares their passive ability with other Haradrim squad members. And I'm sure you remember Robel's passive ability. On crit, inflict 1 stack of Black Serpent's poison. And because of Tibeb's leadership ability, this passive is shared with every other Haradrim ally while Robel is alive. So, anytime someone gets a crit, they run the focus resistance check to apply a stack of Black Serpent's poison, and Bekelu with her basic can apply up to 3 in 1 turn. So let's go over some of their strengths. The obvious first strength is their ability to keep enemies from gaining boons. This is difficult to pull off against an entire team of 5, but if you can figure out the first 1 or 2, you'll be in great shape. Let's say, for example, Elrond. Prior to Bilbo's kit reveal this week, Haradrim felt like the only conceivable Elrond counter. With high enough gear and stars, you may be able to keep Eladan from provoking while you focus fire on Elrond. The Black Serpent's poison could then keep Elrond from gaining his stacks of Unbreakable. I'd bring you footage of this hypothetical battle, but my Haradrim squad is obviously in no place to be making this kind of attempt. Another strength is all of the passives being passed around. On a team together, each of these characters essentially has 5 passive abilities. This is why it's important to balance the provokes between Wubete and Robel to keep the team alive as long as possible. Of course, no team is without its weaknesses, and Haradrim is no different. Haradrim's biggest weakness is also its strength. Remember when I said that Robel is the heart of this team? Well, it's pretty easy to kill the team if you cut out its heart. Because of how Tibeb's leadership works, once Robel is defeated, the rest of the team can no longer apply Black Serpent's poison, other than Bekelu, but she can only apply 1 stack every 3 turns. It doesn't necessarily help that one of Robel's abilities gives her a stack of provoke. If you see this team on defense, target Robel first. Of course, to do all of this, you'll need to upgrade the abilities. In this graphic, you'll see what I believe is the best order to upgrade Haradrim's abilities. After getting Tibeb's leadership to level 3, the main priority is to get Robel's passive to level 6, so that the team functions properly. Then Bekelu's special 1 to at least level 5. Beyond that, it's about Tibeb's healing and everyone's passives. I originally thought Tibeb's healing should come first, but with glyphs, the healing will be fine at level 3 until you get all of the passives to level 6. Speaking of, if you want a copy of these graphics, I'm going to post them in my Discord server. Well, that's about all there is to know about the Haradrim. I appreciate you watching this episode of Glyph Notes. How do you like the Haradrim? Do you have them built up? Let me know in the comments below. And if there's another faction that you'd like to see me make an episode on, let me know in my suggestion box in the links below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hey, go follow me on Twitch. I'm probably live right now. But I'll see you guys next week. Oh no, not again! Thank you. Me in the. Let's add Lord of the Rings to that. Lord of the Rings. I said, look, welcome to Heroes Middle Earth. Well, no, look at the camera. What? What the? Or is it? Why did I say it like that? That boy's strong, which is really good for Kiki. Alexa, stop. I really wrote that in there, didn't I? It's what this team is built around. What are you built around? Keep enemies from gaining Banes. Wait, no. Boons, fool. It's really good for Kiki. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.